Hey, JW here. Um, Hope all is going well with you folks. Just getting from the deck. I did a video out there, but the sun was so bright that it really didn't do that well. I'm still. This is kind of a new phone, so I'm still messing around with the camera on it, and it'll get better as I go along. Pretty much up to snuff on it, but whenever you get a new phone, there's always a few little. And I was never, to be honest with you, I was never a big phone user. Most of the videos I've made on my channel up until recently, very recently, have been produced on my PC. But I kind of like the fact that I can do videos at work now while I'm waiting for the school to get out. And so it's a good time. You can utilize the time there and get some content. I don't know how interesting it is, but, some people seem to like it. So we'll go with it, right? And, people want to watch it, they watch it. If they don't, they don't. That's, I like to hear from people, but I don't get too many comments on my videos. But if there's something special you want me to talk about, I'm fairly well versed in natural health, and I've studied herbology in the past. And, if there's something going on with you health-wise that I don't give medical advice. Let me get the disclaimer out of the way. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a regular dude who does a lot of research on things and has fixed things in the past that, frankly, in my opinion, mainstream medicine would have been stymied by. So, but again, it's just on me. I don't recommend anyone else try the stuff I do. But there are certain herbs that have been shown to perform well as anti-inflammatories and antibiotics. I use turmeric, which I mentioned on other videos for my wound pain. And I've been taking the turmeric for, I don't know, I've been taking it for probably steady now for about 2 weeks. And it seems to do a pretty good job of managing the pain, reducing the amount of pain I have. And I've been taking it about every 90 minutes. I wake up in the middle of the night or something, I just pop one. And whether the pain's good or bad, I just pop one. I'm trying to stay ahead of it. And to the best of my knowledge, side effects of turmeric are minimal, and they're not like side effects you would get from pharmaceutical drugs. You probably could get an upset stomach, or they said some people get a headache from it, but nothing serious. I mean, Indian people use turmeric by the tablespoon when they have dinner, and so I'm kind of not overly concerned about that. And I notice something going on in my body, and I do, because you do too. We all notice what's going on in our bodies. Because it's our body, we live in it. Allergies are still high up here too, real high. It's been a bad spring for allergies. I think it's been the worst year yet, but I think I say that every year, so who knows? But it's pretty bad up here. How is it where you are? If someone wants to give me a shout out in the comments, I'd love to hear where you're from and what's the weather like there. It's 75 degrees here. It's a perfect day. It couldn't be more perfect. It's perfect spring weather, 75 degrees, low humidity, just a slight breeze, blue skies. It's as green as it's ever been up here. We've had a lot of rain. And I live in a complex that it's an HOA, and they take meticulous care of the grounds. I mean, it looks beautiful. A lot of people in the surrounding neighborhoods, some really nice neighborhoods around here too. It's not like they have to leave their neighborhood to see a nice place, but a lot of people walk through our complex because it is so well kept and pretty. And the way they have the houses set up, they're all individual houses, individual homes, and it's very unique. And the grounds have been the complex has been here, God, close to 30 years, and it's meticulously maintained, and which is a good thing. We should maintain our homes. We should maintain our bodies. That's why I'm always looking for ways to manage my pain in terms of the wound or any other pain I get, and any other issue I deal with. I try to use natural compounds rather than going to a doctor and getting the pharmaceutical run. I'm just not into the allopathic form of medical care in most cases. I mean, don't get me wrong. Allopathic medical is good if you need to go to the emergency room. If you get in an automobile accident, fall out a window or something, you need to be sewn up or patched up. It's a great option, and it's the option I would take. Everything has its benefits, and the emergency room is certainly one of the benefits to have around in the case of an emergency. You're out in the woods, something bad happens, and you call 911 and tell them to get you to the nearest emergency room because they can patch you up and hopefully fix you up, and then you can go about the healing process, hopefully naturally. If not, you got to do what you got to do, right? If you're in enough pain, you'll take anything they got, right? I remember one time I broke my shoulder, and it's actually they called it a broken arm, but it was in the humerus area of the shoulder area, and they call it the humerus. And the standard medical joke is that it's not very funny, and it's not. It was very painful, and when I first broke it, it was a real bad break. And they gave me the option of morphine in the emergency vehicle, and I took it. I mean, the pain was, I thought I was going to pass out from the pain. It was excruciating, but so that's one of those times where I went against my rule of not taking the barbiturates, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do. And I try to go natural, and I've succeeded pretty much, I'd say, way more than 90% of the time I've succeeded in going natural. And I find the difference between the mainstream allopathic form of medicine and the natural form of medicine. Natural will usually take longer, but I'll get that later. But it's less harmful to your body in terms of side effects. Most of the natural stuff I take. It's as opposed to the natural method is like every day I take oregano oil. I take iodine. I take a good multi, a real good strong multivitamin, and it's a liquid vitamin. And I use local honey for my allergies, and I take something called fire cider, which is a mix of apple cider vinegar and a whole bunch of different nutrients, horseradish, ginger, turmeric, just a whole bunch of things mixed in, and it's a good health drink, especially in the winter, but I take it all year round. I take a little bit more in the winter. I try to probably do a double up in the winter, but I stay pretty healthy. I'm very fortunate that I get these occasional real hardcore ones, like my broken arm in the humerus area, and wounds, and I had one other melanoma operation back in 1992. So, I do when I get stuff, it can be kind of serious. And of course I had to use, I don't do surgery on myself, obviously. I haven't figured that one out yet, maybe someday. But anyway, Yeah, and so the emergency room is a great thing to have, and I'm glad we have it. So, I'm not downing allopathic medicine and surgery. Sometimes you're going to need surgery. Your quality of life is such that without getting that surgery done, I'm not big on elective surgery where you don't really need it, but people get it. Anytime you go under the knife, I don't care how minor or how safe they say the surgery is, things happen. So I would avoid any of that if I could. But I got to learn not to move my hands around so much when I'm doing these videos. I hope they're not too distracting for you, because I tend to, not Italian, but I tend to talk with my hands sometimes. I'm Irish, but my wife's Italian, and I have a lot of Italian friends, and they tend to talk with their hands. I guess is that at one of those, it's one of those things different nationalities do that's true, It's like people say, that's just a colloquial thing. And I say, no, it's true. And in many cases it is. So anyway, the health issues have been less than desirable in terms of the pain today. But I'm confident that it'll subside. It always does. And I just popped a turmeric. It takes about 30 minutes before it kicks in. That's why I try to stay ahead of it. And I have been staying ahead of it, but I took a shower, and then I changed my wound after my shower. I changed the dressing on the wound, and, you disturb it a little bit, and it starts barking at you. And it's part of the deal, though. So like I said, when I went to the wound center yesterday, by the way, that's another allopathic medical thing that I'm very pleased we have. Those folks do a nice job, and I'm grateful for their help. And I know that they're very compassionate people. Oftentimes you go to, when you're forced to go to an allopathic medical facility, the first thing is, same insurance, you still with Medicare, you still with Social Security. It's like, can we address my issue? I wonder if you said, I know they have to do, I guess in an emergency they have to take you, even if you don't have insurance, right? I know if you're not a citizen and you walk into any emergency room, they have to take you. So I guess my advice to someone is, if you don't have insurance and you're hurt, you just walk in and say, listen, I'm an illegal, or I'm not a citizen, I don't have insurance. My understanding is they will take you right away. I mean, if they'll take someone who isn't a citizen, they certainly should take someone who's maybe down on their luck and doesn't have insurance. I know back in the day, I went without insurance for a while. I got laid off, and my insurance didn't carry over, and I was in a situation where things could have gotten really bad, and it's a worry. I mean, it's a mental health concern. I mean, it's always on your mind. What if something bad happens? Are they going to turn me away? And I mean, they take an oath, right? Do no harm. I assume that if you went in, they wouldn't. I mean, if you went in and you were unconscious, they're going to start bugging you for insurance. I mean, I don't know. That's the first thing they always do, though, when I go into any allopathic medical setup. So that I don't like. And like I say, if you can take care of yourself and stay out of those situations where, like, for instance, waiting in a primary care doctor's waiting room. I don't have a primary care, and that always stymies them when I go. I mostly go to my skin doctor. That's about it. I generally, unless I have to go to the emergency room, like I said. But so, last time I went to the emergency room, and I told them I don't have a primary care. I do, I call it self-care. They give you the dirty look every time. Not the dirty look, but, the look of, yeah, okay, buddy. So, meanwhile, they're passing out narcotics. The whole thing is, what can I say? If it's your thing to go there and you believe in them, then by all means, that's what you should do. I'm not trying to tell you how to run your life, but I've seen too much, as I tell my brother. Eddie, I said, Eddie, I've seen too much. Saw what they did to my dad and what they did to my mom through incompetence. And I'm just not a big fan. But again, emergency situation, something like that, that's different. And surgery, it's different. If you need to have a heart valve or something replaced and that's your only shot, I would take it too. And I'm not going to, I take a stand, but I'm not going to take a hard stand when my life's at stake, obviously. But I've been fortunate, like I said, that most things can be done with self-care. And so the last time I went to the emergency room, and I lost my train of thought there for a minute, I was told that they really encouraged me to get a primary care, and they needed to do some rehab on my foot. So they said they were going to set me up with a primary care guy, and so I went along with it, figuring, I'm not gonna keep them after they're finished anyway. So if it makes them happy, I'll do it. Because they were really annoying about it. They must get some sort of kickback. So so I went along with it. And so the first time I saw him, instead of him wanting to check the injury that I had, he walks in, he's got his computer, he's real, kind of a nerdy looking guy, I guess you'd call him. Turns out he's a Harvard, I checked out his credentials, he was a Harvard Medical School grad, which is impressive if you believe in that. If you believe in the allopathic form of medicine, it's one of the best medical schools in the country, my understanding is. So, anyway, he walks in and he goes, "Are you the guy with the earwax problem?" And I looked at him and I went, "Huh?" And, he didn't have any sense of humor or anything. But right away I knew, now they're incompetent. Now, he's probably very good at what he does. And I'm sure that he has a lot of patients to see that day, and they're all on his computer, and he just pulled up the wrong one. I get that. We all make mistakes, but, it's like the stories you read about them taking the wrong leg off or something. It's because they're way overworked in the sense of the number of patients they see in a day. And I get it. But see, when I'm working with me, self-care, it's only me I'm working on. I know everything about me. And, with these smartwatches we have now, you can take your pulse, you can take your heart rate, your blood pressure, the whole bit. And they're very accurate, Whenever I go to see the surgeon about my wound, they take my blood pressure and everything. I call it. It's exact what my smartwatch said. So I know it's accurate. It takes your temperature, everything. So, it's self-care, but I can do all the tests. I've sent to those labs, got my tests back, and, it cost me a couple $100, but it's better than sitting in a waiting room for some primary care doctor where everyone around you looks like they're ready to die. They're sick. I went there the first time, like I said, and I'm in the waiting room, and everyone's coughing and hacking, and it was in winter. I think it was in February. And, I'm thinking, this is where you get sick. This is where people get sick. And if you're already sick, well, you're going to get something else. And some of these people, and they were young, a lot of them were much younger than me. Thing I noticed is most of them were obese. I think this is a typical trait of the American person now, with the foods being what they are. And listen, some people have issues with their different parts of their body. And I'm not, making fun of people who are overweight. I'm not. I know it's hard to maintain a good diet, and work 2 jobs, and try to drop your kid off at school, and you're doing the fast food because you really don't have any choice. And I understand all that. But my motto has always been, if you have time they say the average American watches 3.5, 4 hours TV a day. If you have the time to do that, then you have time to go out and take a walk for a half hour and, pay a little closer attention to your diet, maybe cook yourself a meal. I cook my own food. I haven't been to a restaurant in years. I have no desire to. I make really, the food I eat, I eat pretty much the same thing every day. And so, the food I eat is very easy to make, and I make it quickly, and I make it the way I like it. I don't have to explain to some waitress how I want my food. I know exactly how I want it. I know exactly how much to cook it. I know exactly how much I want, and it works for me. So, I recommend self-care, and I would recommend that if you are a part of the allopathic medicine, you should advocate to bring in some self-care as well, because you can save yourself a lot of visits that are unnecessary by taking care of yourself and keeping up with your your diet, for instance. I mean, if you have a history of diabetes in your family and you're eating cake at a birthday party, I'm sorry. Shame on you. You have diabetes and you're eating something that's loaded with sugar. My sister has diabetes. She's a really nice lady, and, we get along well. And she's type 2 diabetic. And I told her, I said, Nancy, if you change your diet and go low carb. Oh, I need my carbs. I have to because my blood sugar, blah, blah, blah. She got a million excuses. I said, you won't need to take any kind of medication if you go on a low carb diet. And as close to zero carb as you can go. That's my belief. And I said, you'll lose weight. Not that she needs to lose weight. Now she's been sick the last couple of years, so she was overweight, but and when she got sick, she lost a ton of weight. And I don't think she's put much back. I don't get to see her very often. She lives in one of those facilities that they take care of you, I don't want to call it an old age home. That's what we used to call them back in the day. I'll probably get arrested if I say that. Whatever they call them, home care place or whatever. And so, and everyone in there is sick. So, I told her, I said, Nancy, I'll talk to you on the phone if you want to do a FaceTime or something. That's fine. And I try to talk to her, at least once a week, and keep up with her. But so I said, I wish I could see you. But I guess she's moving into one of those a different part of the facility that's private. She'll have her own little apartment, I guess the best way to describe it. So when she moves in there, I'll visit her. But she's in kind of a ward now. She has her own room with one other person, but everyone in there is hacking and coughing. And again, I try to eliminate the germ factories if I can. The only little germ factory I have to deal with is my granddaughter, and she is, kids when they go to school. She's 5 years old. When she goes to school, she comes home with everything. Whatever anyone else has in the class, they all get. So next thing I know, I got it. And I never get sick, but last year was the first time I've ever had the flu in my life. And we took my granddaughter to the doctor because she was really sick. And she had the flu, and so, the doctor said, you'll probably be getting it. I said, I never get it. She said, this one's a bad strain. I said, I'll be all right. Sure enough, I got it, and it was a bear. I think it was 2 years ago. She was like 3. And, but anyway, take care of yourself. Try to avoid as much as possible having to be in those facilities, because just being in them is risky. Pick up infections, and if you have to stay, my sister-in-law went in the hospital a couple of months ago, and she didn't exactly take care of herself, but she was a heavy smoker her whole life. I think she was 76 years old when she went in the hospital, and she'd been smoking since she was 13, I think she told me. So that's 63 years, And she was pretty strong considering that, she didn't take care of herself. She never went out. She never exercised. She ate pretty bad foods as far as I could tell. But so when she went in the hospital, she had some pain, gallbladder area or something. And then they discovered, a couple of other things, which they always do. They'll always they'll find ways to churn the money tree, the insurance tree. So I told my wife, I said, once you go in the hospital, especially when you're at her age. The likelihood of her coming out is pretty slim. My wife said, I don't know, she's pretty, she's done pretty well. And I said, she's never stayed at the hospital before. Once they got you, oh boy. I tell people this all the time. Try not to ever go near a medical facility if you can. I mean, obviously there are going to be times you can't help it. I understand that, but do everything in your power not to have to stay there overnight. No matter what they're doing, you try to get the hell out of there as quickly as possible. And I think that's really good advice. I've had so many family members and friends who were doing okay. I don't want to say they were healthy and doing fine, but they were doing well. And once they got them in the facility, boy, things went downhill quickly. And so I recommend strongly you keep away from them. And the reason is, I think I read a statistic. I could be wrong on this. I should Google it later on. I will. I'll get back to you, or you can Google it. I think it said that the third leading cause of death in America was medical intervention. And I believe it. I really do. I believe it. So many mistakes are made. Again, because these folks are, first of all, they're overworked. Okay, I know that. Secondly, I'm going to tell you something I learned from a guy at a real estate seminar one time. His name was Jimmy Napier. He's a really smart guy, an old Southern guy. He's dead now, but he was funny to listen to, and he had some great colloquialisms. I'm using all these big words today that I can barely pronounce, but anyway, Jimmy said, how did he put it? He said, nobody knows what you think they know. And that one saying has served me about as well as anything I've ever heard during the course of my life. Nobody knows what you think they know. Think about it. You go to let's say you have a problem with your back. So you go to a back specialist, okay? And you go in with the idea that this guy's an expert on the back. And then you go in and they're saying, well, it could be this, it could be that. We'll try this, we're going to try that. And you're thinking to yourself, I thought this guy was an expert. Well, he studied that. That's his primary focus of study. Is he an expert? You be the judge. But I find in today's world that we do have so many opportunities to learn things and to keep up with things that we never had in the past. I mean, think of it. If a doctor wants to keep up with his profession, he can do most of it online and seminars and online study. Whereas back in the day, they had to just go through, volumes of books and encyclopedic books to find out the answers to certain things. Now it's at their fingertips. In a matter of seconds, they can find things out. But I find this is also a society that has, we are a quick fix society in the sense that everyone's kind of not focused, okay? It's they're moving from one thing to the other, and kind of like me with this with this camera. But so doctors are more likely to go on a trip to the Caribbean than they are to go take a seminar that might update their credentials or improve their knowledge of a certain subject matter. That's just, again, this is all my opinion. I have no evidence that this is what they do, but it's kind of human nature if you think of it. And anyway, take care of yourself. Self-care, self-care, self-care. I always tell the kids at school the same thing, that, don't depend on others to get things done for you. Don't depend on your teachers to impart knowledge on you. Stay awake. Learn to pay attention, and then learn to carry out what you learned outside of school. take it with you at home, try it out, test it, see if it works for you. Whatever the teachers recommend, see if it works for you. And see if, there's different ways of studying. I always did well by listening. When I was younger, I would make a tape of the lecture I had in school. And I would, at the time, we had like a tape player, portable tape player. It wasn't even stereo, I wouldn't even call it a Sony Walkman. It was even below that. But, I would just walk around. If I was walking or going somewhere on the bus on the MTA, that's the T, the transit here in Boston, I would just plug it into my ear. And most people would think you were listening to music or something. And I don't care what they thought I was listening to, and I would just repeat it over and over. So let's say I had an hour's worth of lecture. I would listen to it maybe for 5-6 hours, and it became second nature. So that was how I memorized things. I didn't have a great memory, natural memory, where some people can listen to something once or read something once and remember it. I can't. I'm not blessed with that kind of memory. But if I keep repeating it and hearing it, it's amazing. It's how I learned back in the day the DOS language of computers. When I first bought my first computer, there was something called DOS. That was the language of the computer. Now you have Windows, of course, and all the different Apple iterations. But back then, and that's how I learned all the moves on the computer. I think I guess we had a mouse back then, but I could do it quicker with the keyboard moves because I memorized all the DOS commands, and there were hundreds of them. Maybe not hundreds, but maybe 100. And I memorized them all. And I did it through listening to the different commands, and control this, control C, control V, control this, control that, shift this. And I was quick on the computer back when people weren't very quick on computers, because it was very tedious in the beginning. I mean, my first computer was began with a Z. I think I might have saved it. Go through some stuff down the basement and see if I saved that, because it's probably worth some money. This is turning out to be a long video. I apologize for those who are forced to listen to this. You're not forced to, of course, but I hope you find it interesting enough to listen to it. But so back then, computers were, at the very beginning, it was a Zenith, not a Zenith, but it began with a Z. Darn, I can't remember the name of it, but it was a little, and I mean, to get it started, just to boot it up, took like a half an hour. And then, you fed it. Then, I thought I was the coolest guy on the planet with this little computer. This is long before anyone, half the people never even heard of a computer, or if they had, it was like science fiction to them. And then I graduated to my first portable. No, it wasn't portable. It was my first desktop was an Apple IIc, which was a nice little computer for the day. And I never liked Apple from day one, so I switched to a PC. I think it was an IBM. I believe it was. There weren't many choices back then. Might have been a Motorola, but I think those were about the only two choices we had back then. And then I graduated I remember the first, called it a laptop. It was like this vertical suitcase that I carried on the airplane. It was bigger than my luggage, but I thought, again, coolest guy on the planet. Because back then, nobody had computers. I went to Vegas, and I used to have a horse racing program, and I put it in the computer. People would come over to me, what's that? It was a computer, What are you doing with it? Do you get the winners? And I said, well, sometimes I do, but if I had got the winners all the time, I'd be living on an island somewhere. But anyway, just a bunch of ramblings from JW as usual. And I hope you're having a great day where you are and a great weekend. I'll be checking in on and off. I don't know if I'll do one from school today or not, but You're probably getting sick of seeing my face today, but if I do, I'll see you then. If I don't know when I'll see you. Probably over the weekend sometime. But thanks for tuning in. This is JW signing off, and take care.